In the 1980s, personal computing changed everything in the United States and around the world. Almost overnight, personal computers were in every home, every business. Email, business, and personal computing applications exploded. Somewhere in that decade, things took another quantum leap forward when personal computers linked to networks, first locally, then to wide area networks, and then globally. Networked computing environments enabled unprecedented collaboration within and across multiple locations and brought tremendous efficiencies and increased productivity dramatically. As we left the 80s, everything from books, personal data, financial data, proprietary business information, health records, national security and intelligence information, and so much more was stored, accessed, and utilized on this ever-expanding global web of countless thousands of computer networks. The PC trend accelerated as we entered the 1990s, and in 1995, another phenomenon rocked the tech world. Public access to something called the Internet, overnight and forever, changed the way businesses and governments delivered services and goods and executed myriad missions, and the way citizens around the world worked, learned, shopped, and entertained. E-commerce, e-government, e-everything, and yes, you've got mail. The era of digital dependence was in high gear and moving at a pace faster than man's ability to manage it. The Internet and the computing and communications technologies upon which it relied fueled transformation to a truly connected world and global economy. Regulated industries of energy, finance and communications, to businesses of every size and governments of every jurisdiction built core operating process and more on the Internet. Following the Internet, thousands and thousands of connected servers magnified an organization's ability to do ever more in what came to be called the cloud, be it a government, regulated business, or business of any size. As the world approached a new millennium, tech talk circulated about a new phenomenon, an Internet of Things, or IoT. In essence, an internet-connected world of devices where everything from your dishwasher and household appliances to planes, trains, and automobiles to a projected 50 billion IoT devices connected globally by 2020. Within this warp-speed tech revolution, the overriding technology concern of the 1990s centered around whether the world would collapse when the clock struck midnight, December 31st, 1999, to begin a new millennium. Y2K was a global technology obsession, prompting massive expenditures on backup, refresh, and contingency planning. Not much happened at 12:01 a.m. in the year 2000. Looking back, we should have worried more about another phenomenon, an almost neglected dark side of the digital age. Theft of information now stored and accessed globally on computers and servers positioned across the planet, and deliberate disruptions of now critical computer, network, and internet-enabled devices, worms and viruses, denials of service, ransomware, critical infrastructure attacks, theft of sensitive data, theft of proprietary information, economic sabotage. These and more remain clear and present dangers to governments, businesses, and consumers. And it is more complicated now than ever before, and growing ever more so. Today, cybersecurity expands beyond traditional IT infrastructure. The IoT is no longer academic. It is here, and as projected, there are more than 50 billion IoT-connected devices. These reside on networks just as computers do. So too do drones or unmanned aerial vehicles, UAVs. So too do smart industrial control devices. Edge and quantum computing are on deck and promise extraordinary benefits and efficiencies, and extraordinary risks as well. Cybercrime actors are more sophisticated and present special challenges. Threats have moved well beyond Matthew Broderick in the 1983 movie War Games.
Shall we play a
Bad actors today often operate outside national boundaries, making them harder to arrest and prosecute. Nation-states are building both offensive and defensive cyber capabilities. Cyber attacks are weapons of choice for terrorists and present lucrative opportunities for organized crime. Security of data and physical assets. This is why you are here. This is what you do. In one form or another, this is who you are. You are a senior professional employed in a regulated industry, government jurisdiction, or technology enterprise. You are part of an inaugural annual summit that now stands beside the Government Business Executive Forum's other flagship annual conference, EDGE at CES. This is EDGE22, the Security Summit. And we're glad you're here.
Good morning, everyone. Once again, it was a little north of too much fun last night. And welcome again to San Diego and the inaugural EDGE Security Summit. To those of you here in person and those of you watching, we are glad you're here.
And we hope everyone had a great time last night, and this evening's going to be hard to top as we go in.
We have an extraordinary, the roundtables were fantastic yesterday. Thank you all who participated, both in speaking and attending and speaking. They were really highly interactive and really put the chemistry together for last night. But the program that you're going to see for the next day and 2 hours tomorrow is, I think, one that is unmatched in terms of conferences that you've attended. And it is so because we chose 3 critical infrastructure leaders who share senior government experience and now hold senior positions in finance and energy.
And not only are they going to be leading a lot of our program and helped us put the program together, but here today you're going to hear them talk about 3 distinct areas within critical infrastructure and cybersecurity, which will lead us into tomorrow, which will be focused on supply chain.
But the final conclusion will be on supply chain. And so everything has a flow and a purpose. We are delighted with the morning lineup of speakers. But let's bring up, Dr. West and I are going to exit here, but we're going to welcome those 3 leaders and co-chairs of the inaugural conference. And I'm going to begin with Adam Lee. Adam Lee is the Chief Security Officer, Vice President of Dominion Energy, one of the country's largest energy companies. He led counterterrorism, public corruption in the FBI, different offices, and his last assignment was special agent in charge of Richmond. He was, well, if I might even say, he was one of the interviewees when President Trump was looking for a new FBI director. So he is a leader in law enforcement, now security. Please welcome Adam Lee.
Our next co-chair is Sean Calfin. Sean, many of you know, is a rock star in our security field. He has spent time at the U.S. Army, U.S. Navy, CBP, Freddie Mac is the CISO, Barclays is their CISO, and now today is the Discover Financial Services CISO. Sean was recently awarded here in the past week by CISO Connect as the top CISO, being in the top 100 CISOs in our country. So welcome, Sean.
Brian Harrell is the Chief Security Officer and Vice President of Avangrid, another large energy company. Many of you know and probably worked with him when he was Deputy Director of the Critical Infrastructure and Security Administration, Cybersecurity Administration, CISA. And Brian, we are glad to have you here as well. Sorry, I'm stumbling over my words a little bit, but welcome. We are now going to exit and let them speak and launch the program, but thank you all for the work you did in putting this program together for us.
Thank you.
I guess I was introduced first, so I'll step up. So folks, it's so great to see a lot of familiar faces, a lot of friends here in beautiful San Diego. I'm sorry about the weather, for those of us who came from the East Coast. Anyway, Dominion Energy, as Don mentioned, depending on how you measure it, 3rd largest energy company in the nation, power company of the Pentagon, the Navy Yard, Camp Perry, Quantico, and everything that you all know exists up in Northern Virginia. So sort of a uniquely positioned critical national asset within critical infrastructure. As we're talking about sort of forming the content, our team here forming the content of this conference, and how we're going to sort of chart the trajectory of what the discussions were, you know, thinking about large commercial enterprises like mine, like Sean's and Brian's, the thing that came to mind is how the sort of parochial notions of cybersecurity, the compliance standards, the frameworks and things, don't always sort of meet the mission. And how do we interact with government to get smarter, to get more effective, to get more nimble, more adaptive to the threats we face? In our company, 40,000 vendors, supply chain issues, how do we deal with those effectively? Dealing with the sophistication of nation states, how do you defend against actors that can lie dormant in your network, so waiting for a patch in your OT environments? How do you identify that? How do you reverse engineer your devices? How do you ensure your supply chains are safeguarded? So those are the kinds of things we really wanted to dig into with our government partners. We didn't just want the staring across the table, well, what do you want from us? You know, what do you need from us? We're here to help kind of thing. It's like those discussions you can get at any conference. We really wanted this conference to be a Chatham House Rules style conference where we could really start digging into some of the issues that we face every day to meet the threat and achieve our mission. So that's why we're here, folks. So grateful to see everybody. I think we've exceeded capacity, which is so gratifying that there's so many people interested in these issues. So thank you again, and look forward to a great day. A lot of fantastic speakers today.
Thank you, Adam.
Sure.
So a little bit about why a cybersecurity focused conference. Actually, I'll probably be preaching to the choir because you're all here as we dig into this. But you think about your national levers of power, political, diplomatic, informational, military, and economic. The latter two being hard power. When we think about the first cyber attack, cyber threats have been since the existence of the internet, under ARPA, with the first cyber attack the Russians trying to attack Reagan's Strategic Defense Initiatives, or Star Wars program, in 1986. And so we look at and extrapolate that to today with our interconnected ecosystem. You would think for those military folks and veterans out here, the internet now is the proverbial high ground in terms of economic, military, and political influence. So how do we ensure that we collectively, with this mix and this audience here, whether it's government, private sector, critical infrastructure, solution providers, are collaborating to tackle these near-term tactical, semi-strategic, and strategic challenges? Whether we're talking about at the strategic level, it's transfer of wealth due to cyber espionage. I think General Alexander, a few years ago now, coined it, this cyber espionage has led to the greatest transfer of wealth in US history. All the way to, in addition to the economic threats, we think about what we're seeing now with Russia as far as undermining our trust in democratic institutions. So how do we ensure, when we think about one of the greatest intelligence losses with the shadow broker tool set, where now the US used to be number one and number two in cyber capabilities was a long-distant China and Russia. And when we look at that now, with the release of, I think Nicole Permuth quoted it, you think about Snowden was the PowerPoint bullet. The shadow brokers and release of NSA's top technology and tools were actual bullets, the code. And it's compressed and leveled the playing field, where we've seen a surge of attacks on our critical infrastructure, embedding it, what we're seeing in what's happening in Ukraine with blackouts over the past few years and attacking their critical infrastructure. How do we discuss these challenges in this Chatham House Rules environment to see how can we collaborate and partner to address the threats now and the threats of the future? Look forward to the discussion today and the partnership and engagement. Brian.
Well, all the cool things were said, so I drew the short straw. But I will tell you that, number one, thanks for having us. Number two, thanks for being here. I've done many cool things in this national security world, but I've never sat and drank on top of the USS Midway. So thank you for that, Don. That was awesome. That was excellent. A little bit about Avangrid. I won't bore you. We own 10 different utilities in the Northeast, but we span across 24 different states. Generation, transmission, distribution of electric power is basically what we do. My title is Chief Security Officer. That's typically what it's called, but I will tell you at the board level, it's usually Chief Storytelling Officer. And it's the ability to articulate a thought and a story and ask for money, to drive down risk, to get the things that you need in order for your organization to be successful. So hopefully with the panels today, when we're talking about convergence a little bit later, but insider threat and third-party risk, all of these things that we're here to talk about. You know, notice there's not some of your typical RSA type stuff on there. We're not doing a deep dive on ransomware. We're not doing, you know, some of these other rudimentary stuff. We're getting into the heart of what we think is the future of cybersecurity risk. How do we use the A word? The A word, in my opinion, is anticipate. How do we anticipate what is coming next? And how do we align our budgets, our staff, our organizations, our boards to be responsive to that? So thank you very much for having us. We're looking forward to it. We're going to be a part of the dialogue, I think, just about all day. And hopefully we're going to have a lot of interaction. You know, I was telling Don, you know, this is the right amount of people, but more importantly, it is the right people. If you look to your left and right, the decision makers, the who's who of government and industry are here. And so if we're going to solve anything, it might be in this room. So thanks for having us.